We'll have to keep an eye on this cheeky phone. That was 2.5 minutes of solid gold we just lost.
Well, no, it was more than that. That's just the 2.5 minutes of the preamble before we even started recording. We're trying to do the work. Stop being foolish.
Phone.
Wednesday. Here we are in Wednesday, except that it's Monday and we're flying home today.
Yeah. It's kind of all hitting us over these last few days in a multitude of ways. And we're definitely in Wednesday headspaces, feeling a little bit frazzled and a little bit foolish and a bit...
Epically emotional.
Yes, very much so.
Wednesday belies its depth with its jaunty tune.
I think it may come as a surprise or interesting to a lot of people that this is where we're finishing, like an interesting song for us to finish on. And so I'm kind of excited to share just how far the shot put goes on this one.
Oh yeah, this one in just over like 2.5 years ago really was a game changer for me in my personal life in so many ways because of the effect it had on me at one particular time.
Yeah, it was. Did it turn the tables on you? I suppose I could say.
Yeah.
Thanks,
Adele.
Thanks, Tori. D's. I love how I tried to say damn and G's at the same time, and so I've just gone D's.
D's.
No embarrassment.
Make it a thing.
Like no, let's not. I think we should just leave it behind in customs.
Hi, I'm Michael Earp.
And I'm Bailey Turner,
Welcome to Michael's Walk.
the podcast.
Michael's Walk is a road trip, a search for something. Spoilers! It's myself, and it was inside all along.
If only it were that simple.
Driven by Tori Amos's album, Scarlet's Walk, I'm recreating the journey Scarlet took in its 20th anniversary year.
I'll also be there.
With the loving and patient
Always patient.
support of Bailey and Teague Lee, 3 trans queers set out across America
That's 33 states in 55 days.
to connect with the songs, the land that inspired them, and the fans inspired by the songs. We'll talk music, travel, healing, and hope as we ask the questions: how do I heal from 15 years of coercive control and manipulation?
And what role does the music we listen to play in our own relationship narratives?
We've self-produced this podcast and trip.
You can support us via GoFundMe.
For the full story, head to michaelerp.net.
So, Wednesday territory for us.
Stretched from... Oh, well, yes. We hit Wednesday territory when we're at 2 Medicine,
Yeah.
having that gorgeous moment that you heard about at the end of the Strange episode. And then we drove west. One day I'll get those right.
Yeah.
Across to Seattle, and then we spent a couple of days in Seattle and went down to Portland, and then drove from Portland all the way down to San Francisco, but technically Wednesday stops at Crescent City, which is just south of the California border.
So yeah, so the sort of San Francisco, Fresno, LA kind of portion of our trip will be covered in our final episode, which is our sort of fun little recap time.
Yeah, where we're
wait.
going to do some top 5s of various things.
Some top 10s, some best and worsts.
And then we put social media call outs and so we're going to try and address what people want to hear from us.
Yeah, some
as
of you
well.
went deep. We were just like, ask us funny things. And people were like, what has it done to your voices and what you want to do for the community? I'm like, I don't fucking know that. I mean, I do, but like, damn, like, way to come at me with that, with the intense stuff.
And like, what has Scarlett got to say for
Yeah.
contemporary audience? Anyway, you'll hear all of that
Yeah, we taught y'all too well
in
with
the
the
next
intensity.
episode.
So we're actually going to do a lyric by lyric for this one, for our last episode. I think because for you, when you listened to her and she kind of had to say what she had to say to you, the specificity of the references was
Yeah.
a really big part of what.
Yeah, I really felt like this song was, like, to a degree, literally describing my personal experiences. And that just, it brought on a whole lot of feels, in a way.
Well, why don't you set the scene?
Okay, so this is 2.5 years ago. I have gone to Perth for the Perth Writers Festival at the beginning of 2020.
The only reason to go to Perth.
So because of that, we was like the authors and I from my anthology that were there as part of the festival, we just were put up by the festival in the hotel, which happened to be the W Hotel in Perth. It, to this day, is still the fanciest hotel I've ever stayed in, and thank goodness I wasn't paying for it. And full disclosure, I didn't even pay to get to Perth. The grant that I had for the book paid for that. But anyway, so picture me in like the swishest hotel suite that you can imagine. One of those ones where you like push a button and the floor to ceiling windows has a screen that comes down and then there's a block out blind. You know, it's full high swish. And
For Americans listening, swish is Aussie slang for posh.
yeah, it's like real fans.
Real fancy. Sorry.
And
Oh, crikey, that's real fancy.
crikey. Then I'm in a little bit of an emotional state. There are things going on in my relationship at that time that I'm still trying to reckon with.
But that's not the relationship.
Oh yeah, no, my
It's
relationship.
your
Yeah,
current
that was
relationship.
my current relationship. Just little
Slash-
things like
Our relationship, I imagine, at that time.
no,
No, we were good by then.
I was with Teague, and it was just Teague and I are in an open relationship, and this was in the first sort of 6 months of, or 8 months of us being together, and so I was still adjusting to that mindset, and I had my little ups and downs along the way. But I got up in the morning, because we got in on Friday night, and had a bit of a interesting night, and then got up in the morning and I was feeling quite overwhelmed, and so I thought, well, what do I do when I'm overwhelmed? I turned to my favorite music, and so I put on Scarlet's Walk, and I thought, this will be great. I'll just listen to it from beginning to end. What could possibly go wrong? And I get through the first tracks fine, and then Wednesday comes on. And Wednesday for me has always been just the jaunty little interlude, really. I've never been hit by it emotionally on any level.
Until now.
Until now. And then, so I'll read you the lyrics and I'll tell you what they make me think.
Would you like me to read them?
Yeah.
Nothing here to fear. I'm just sitting around being foolish when there is work to be done.
So, for those who know me even a little, probably know that I'm a chronic procrastinator. And I also have the habit of telling myself that everything's fine, everything will be fine, ignoring problems because I don't have the emotional capacity to deal with them. I talked a little bit about that on the I Can't See New York episode. I tend to calm myself and look away. Well, this is how I used to be. I am now much more leaning into a place where I try and deal with things head on before they get out of hand. But that's certainly how I was.
Just a hang-up call and the quiet breathing of our Persian we call Cajun on a Wednesday.
So I will admit that the reference to the cat doesn't have any sort of... I've never owned a pet, and anyway, so that's...
But if you did, it'd be a Persian called Cajun.
Apparently, because this is my life. Maybe it's a vision into the future. No, it is not. I'm allergic to cats. Just a hang-up call means a number of things to me. There were many times when my ex would let his phone ring out, and I could never understand why, and he'd always just look at his phone and be like, oh, I'll get back to them. Even when there was no reason for him to not take a call in my presence. It happened quite a lot. But the thing that this brought to mind for me is something that even to this day I still have a bit of a, I guess, trauma response to, is that twice now in my life, the first time was the most horrific. When he, on both occasions that he was arrested is where this is going. But the first time, I was 23. We were living in Northbridge in a little apartment. And we were woken by a very severe banging on the door at 7 in the morning. And he got out of bed and went and looked through the viewer in the door. And then, like, the banging was continuing for quite some time. But then he just came back to bed and said, oh, it's nothing, don't worry about it. And I was like, oh, okay. It seemed pretty frantic to me, but he was like, no, let's just get on with our day. And so, because after a while it stopped, and then we, like, I was due to work, so I got up and got ready for work, and then eventually I left the house, walked down the driveway, and just as I turned onto the footpath, this guy jumped out from behind a car and said, Michael, are you Michael? And I said, yes. And they said, were you at home just now? And I said, yes. And he said, why didn't you answer the door? And I said, oh, well, he went to the door and said that no one was there. And then all of a sudden, like within 30 seconds of him jumping out of a car, all of a sudden there were like 10 police people. Just, they'd all been hiding, waiting for us to leave or show up or whatever. And then so I was taken back inside, the charges were placed, and then we were kept in separate rooms while they interviewed us both. And I was being asked all sorts of questions about things that I didn't have any idea about, and I was just super confused and overwhelmed. And then they searched and raided the house. They took every form of electronic device that they could find because they needed to search it for evidence. Then eventually I was allowed to leave and go to work.
Right.
And
how long did this take?
so it was probably like, I mean, I was only kept there for, I don't know, maybe half an hour, because I had work and the charges weren't against me. But yeah, then I found myself just having to go through my day at work, knowing that he had just been arrested and our house had been searched and all of like my computer and all of my stuff had been taken too. And so I just had to sort of get on with the day. And then the second time it happened, there was the banging at the door. We were living in Melbourne by then. Banging at the door right bright and early in the morning. And the funny thing is, that time, as soon as it happened, I was like, oh God, it's happening again. Which means that now, every time the buzzer goes off or there's a bang at the door before I'm out of bed, I immediately panic. Like,
of course.
I just have the strongest reaction to that. So just a hang-up call kind of just, it severely brought to mind that.
So we go from year to year with secrets we've been keeping, though you say you're not a Templar man. Seems as if we're circling for very different reasons, but one day the eagle has to land.
This made me, in this moment in Perth, made me realise how many secrets we'd been keeping from each other for such an extended period of time. Like, we really did go from year to year to year to year, like 15 years of this relationship where we were founded on secrets and lies. So they only grew exponentially going forward. The fact that I had cheated on him, which I have talked about in previous episodes, as a way to sort of cope with the fact that he was, like, our sex life had died and I wasn't allowed to talk about anything with anyone. And so I really, which is part of the issues that were playing into me at the time with my concern around an open relationship, because to my mind, sex outside of a relationship was riddled with the feelings of guilt and shame that I had brought upon myself by cheating on my ex. So, and then, but one day the eagle has to land, like, that's just the truth. No bird can fly perpetually.
You can't just kind of continue keeping all these secrets and expecting that that's a sustainable way to live.
Yeah, exactly.
Out past the fountain, are left by the station, I start the day in the usual way. Then think, well, why not? And stop for a coffee, then begin to recall things that you say.
I think it was actually at the point where she sings and I start to recall the things that you say that I lost it. I just, because I was feeling teetering on the edge in this song at this point in time. But when she sings that, all of these things that he said to me to try and cheer me up, to ignore the fact that I needed cheering up. Like, oh, here come the Michael Waterworks again, or you don't know, you weren't there, or I can't believe that you would do that. Just, I don't know, I can't, it was just such an overwhelming flood of all of the exchanges in our life, and the fact that I would start my days in the usual way. A lot of my life with him, I was a sales rep for a book publisher, and so I would be driving around a lot. There's lots of me driving around with my thoughts and just remembering things that he said and needing to process and deal and suppress, and all the coping mechanisms that were unhealthy. Yeah.
No one's at the door. You suggest a ghost, perhaps a phantom. I agree with this in part.
Oh, that's the banging on the door
Very
again.
right in there. Something is with us. I can't put my finger on. Is Thumbelina size 10 on a Wednesday?
Like, the something is with us. We would always sort of joke about, I don't know whether joke's the right word, but okay, for 4 years of our life, we lived in Willsmere Asylum, which was a heritage asylum built in the late 1800s in Melbourne, in Kew. And, like, honestly, it was decommissioned in 91 and reopened in 93 as an apartment block. Our building, our window had scratchings in the glass.
Oh, God.
One panel had the Star of David. One panel had a date that was like 2 days before Christmas in 1976 or something.
Jesus Christ.
Another unit, not ours, but someone we knew, their glass had help written in the window, like scratched in the window. Because it's heritage, they can't just change the glass. But there was lots of discussion about ghosts, and we had people stay with us who felt they saw ghosts. I mean, I was never bothered by it, but there's certainly something going on there.
And I imagine, you know, when you've got such a, you know, a kind of sudden, unexpected criminal past of a partner is going to be a whole other unspoken presence in a relationship.
Well, that's how I took it. Like, with the something is with us, I'm like, I honestly felt like there was something malicious hanging in the air between us. And it turns out I was right. Like, and not just like to the point where he has this penchant for illegal activities, but the way he goes about hiding them, the way he hides other things, the way he just was incapable of telling me the truth. I just can't stress how important the truth is in establishing a healthy relationship. Like, I don't even care if the truth hurts so bad that it leads to, like, I would rather us be honest with each other and decide that it's not working. That would hurt, but hurt less than find you've spent 15 years with someone who you don't even really know.
So we go from year to year with secrets we've been keeping, though you say you're not a Templar man. You tell me to cheer up. You suspect we're oddly even. Even still, the eagle has to land.
Oh, here come the Michael Waterworks. Cheer up, Michael, it'll be fine. Things will get better. Like, we'll just get through this bit. We'll just get through this bit, and then this bit, and then this bit. You know, don't talk about the sad things. Don't talk about them to me. Definitely don't talk about them to anyone else. Just cheer up. Things will be fine.
And it's like, oh, we just need to get. I think, like, you know, that relationship philosophy is one that kind of certainly was my undoing in a relationship that was really important to me. Like, just got to get through this sort of chunk of time, and it's like, what do you think life is? Yeah, the things don't. You know, time is not its own factor. Like, getting through something isn't a method of endurance or ignoring something.
It's not
getting
a waiting
through it
game.
Actually is addressing it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
You actually have to address this stuff. Out past the fountain, are left by the station, I start the day in the usual way. Then think, well, why not, and stop for a coffee and begin to recall things that you say. Pluck up the courage and snap, it's gone again. I start humming When Doves Cry.
That pluck up the courage and snap, it's gone again? The amount of times that I was this close to leaving him, this close to just calling it a day, just admitting to myself how fucked everything was. But then, snap, the courage is gone again. Or, like, just, oh well, we'll see what today brings. Or,
and like, modes like courage are, in these circumstances, are like, you think it's more courageous to stick it out, and that's the right thing to do. Like,
yeah.
Like, that's the braver act is to endure and to continue.
Well, that's just it. I kept on telling myself that, like, I wouldn't be the weak one. And I saw the weakness as the relationship ending, whereas my weakness was in not standing up for myself.
Yeah, it takes a lot of courage to walk away from something that you've invested so much time and faith in. So that totally makes sense. Can someone help me? I think that I'm lost here. Lost in a Place Called America.
Well, in my mind, I always substituted America for Australia.
Yes.
But
Lost in a place called Australia. Doesn't have that ring.
and so here I've come to. Not that we were ever lost.
Weren't we?
GPS.
Oh, God.
I'm not talking emotionally.
I don't know. We had some struggles trying to get out of the aria in Las Vegas that time.
Oh. Yeah, that.
The place is a warren, y'all.
We're like, I'm sure the street's just back up this way. Oh, no.
Nope.
More poker machines. So I guess all of that went through my head in the 2.5 minutes of this song.
It's a lot.
And I quite honestly had the most significant emotional breakdown of my life. I felt scared and alone. I couldn't reckon with my past. My own history was so overwhelming to me that it all came crashing down on me in that 2.5 minutes. And I hysterically cried for a solid hour before I could even function enough to sort of text Teague and be like, I'm not okay. Then I had to sort of get myself together and go chair a panel. First I had to be a panelist on a different event. And so I was like shaky and crying, and I walked over to it, and I kind of took a minute to compose myself, and I got up on stage and I did the thing. And then as soon as I got off stage and finished taking photos with people, I was with someone who was also on the panel, and they were really kind to me, and I just said, I'm actually having the worst day ever. I just need to step away and go and cry some more. And they were very understanding. And then, so I went and did that. And then I had to gather myself again for the panel that I was there to do with my own book and the authors. Like, I was chairing a panel with authors from my own anthology. And
It's such an incredible accomplishment.
it takes a lot of mind power to sort of moderate a panel,
Yes.
particularly when the focus is also on you because you're the one that sort of put it together.
Yeah.
And then I finally managed to get through the evening, and then I woke up on Sunday morning and it all just came flooding back, and I found myself bawling again. I couldn't think. I couldn't process anything. Teague suggested that I go for a walk, and so I thought that was a really good idea. I mean, it seemed like a good idea at the time. So I left the hotel and I walked, and I walked, and I walked, and I walked for an hour and a half, and I found myself in the Botanic Gardens an hour and a half walk away from the hotel, where promptly I had another panic attack and couldn't function. Teague had to call me. This was very difficult for Teague to do because he has autism, and speaking on the phone is very uncomfortable for him. And he honestly had to talk me through booking myself an Uber and getting back to the hotel because I couldn't make any decisions. I was literally bawling in the middle of a park, assuming that everyone was staring at me. So my panic attack, emotional breakdown of rather epic proportions lasted 2 whole days, and then I was able to spend that afternoon with the lovely Marley Jane Ward, who was very receptive to me being just entirely open about what was going on with me. And she just sat with me. We went and got food, and then she's like, if you need me during the night, call. And then the next morning we flew home, and thank God it was over. But that instance led to me recognizing that I needed antidepressants, and the antidepressants have helped immensely, and having the clearer mind of antidepressants has also led me to getting my ADHD diagnosed. So I do a little less sitting around being foolish these days.
Yeah.
I mean, it's still a personality trait, but it's not as chronic as it was.
I think the concern with, with that is always about, what it is in our past that makes us feel that any level of unproductivity as perceived by other is somehow, actually linked to our value and our contribution to community, which is so dreadful and it's so inaccurate.
So literally last night, my friend Wyatt, one of my best friends from high school, messaged me and was just asking when we were back in Australia and how's the trip been. And I confessed to him that I'm terrified of being at home and needing to be productive. And he's like, I thought you were being productive. And I was like, where's the product? To which he sends a link to Wampum Prayer episode of Michael's Walk podcast. And I'm like, oh yeah, we are doing a podcast. That is a product, isn't it? I chronically undermine everything that I do.
Yeah, I'm gonna kill you. You've hit on something so critical there. Like, I know that I've somehow managed to, I don't know when it happened that I reached a stage of feeling differently about things like this, but like, the knowledge is the product, the experience is the product. Like, you don't, like, the evidence doesn't have to be packaged up and outside of you to be valuable. The process is the product and rest is the product. Like, it's all kind of there and all contributes. But yeah, I hear what you're saying, and like, I've been in similar positions. You know what you're describing as, as an emotional meltdown or breakdown or whatever it is nothing, is like microscopic compared to the 15 years of what contributed to that 2 days.
Yeah, that's true.
Like, there are people who never recover. There are people who process pain like what you encountered in very, very seriously harmful ways. And I'm constantly proud of you for what you haven't resorted to that I know other people will have in your position. I've always believed you're, just unfathomably strong in the face of that kind of adversity.
Well, that brings to mind when that finally went to counselling and did the intake questionnaire. And then in my first session, the counsellor was like, Michael, you do understand it's not normal to cry 4 to 5 times a week, just over apparently nothing. And I was like, oh wait, it's not? Like, I thought that was just life. Doesn't everyone cry?
Yeah. Yeah.
But yes, it was bottling up way too much. And that was the point. And I guess that's the point of this. Like, that can be one of the key points of this whole project, is that unless you address things in your life, they will only compound. And if you're applying that to relationship and abuse from an intimate partner of any kind, you need to be talking about it with people. You need to be addressing it. You need to be facing your life as it stands.
Yeah. And finding a coping mechanism that is positive and moves you forward rather than kind of maintains the status quo or causes harm.
And if the person you're with wants to deny you the help you need, on any level, then they genuinely do not want what's best for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Whew.
Yeah.
So that's the super emotional part of the episode done.
And I think we all knew, well, I say we all, like, you and I knew that going into Wednesday territory was going to bring up more of that, and was going to kind of feel its way through where those challenges still exist in both our lives. And so it's been a pretty intense trot of time, but also would kind of open our minds to other meanings of the song, and that's been a really powerful experience as well.
Yeah.
It was just the right time for basically heading from Two Medicine to Moy Springs was a big drive, and by the time we kind of got to this cute little cabin in the woods, we kind of realized that the trip in the way that we were kind of in constant observation of what we were doing, kind of that productive thing where you are just kind of constantly, actually Maggie Chakuta Hall, who we caught up with in San Francisco, put it perfectly. It's like content mining your life and content mining your relationships. Like by the time we hit Moy Springs, it was like, enough. Just kind of can't keep doing this to ourselves, because there is more to life than productivity. There kind of just has to be experience, and at some point you have to stop observing what you're doing. You have to stop being so analytical and intellectual, which is hard for two Aquarians on the road. But you kind of just have to be in it. You have to live it and be completely present. And I think that's kind of what Moy Springs kind of gave us. We ended up, there was like a little swimming lake out the back, and we got to like...
Everyone, you need to look this place up.
Oh, so amazing.
It's called Allison's Ranch, and Allison is spelt...
A-L-L-I... I don't think... Yeah, I think it's A-L-L-I-C-I-N-S. Like the Allison garlic.
Yes. And it refers to... And at first I was like, oh, referencing garlic. Because it is a garlic farm that we were staying on. But I was like, oh, referencing garlic. But then the owner was like, Allison is actually the chemical garlic that has healing properties. And all of a sudden I'm like, well, of course we're staying here. Like, this is, again, just Scarlett being like, here you are on a healing journey, staying on a ranch named after the healing properties of garlic.
Yeah, like it was the most Scarlett fucking thing we've... under her eye. Martha's Foolish Garlic.
Martha's Foolish Garlic.
Take
Exactly.
a walk down memory lane.
Oh, Martha's Foolish Ginger. Anyway, that's another episode podcast thingy.
Yeah, we're doing it again for the beekeeper.
Oh, no.
Well, will I bugger? Absolutely not.
Yeah, it has this gorgeous little swimming hole. They're just the cutest little cabin in the woods. It really is. I mean, there's an outhouse without a door, so you can sit staring off into the gorgeous, gorgeous forest as you do your bog.
God's sake. There's also a lovely outdoor shower and a swing, and the family who kind of run it live just up the road, so they're just kind of...
They're there to help or leave you
Yeah,
alone,
but
they're so friendly.
They were so lovely.
We had lovely chats with them. But yeah, and it's also super affordable. So if you just want, like, you can Airbnb it, or it's on booking.com as well.
But Airbnb it.
But Airbnb it.
Yeah. The escape of it. We kind of called it, it was kind of the pseudo end of the trip, really.
Well, we realised it was our last night that it was just us. And then we went into a week of staying with and catching up with friends.
Yeah, and kind of, we knew the next week wouldn't be a lot of, we thought it wouldn't be a lot of, like, stuff to deal with.
Emotional labour. What?
Lol.
No, we're done with that.
But we really thought that it was kind of going to be a period of just enjoying human contact again, and really just starting that kind of the process of processing. And we both kind of identified that we really needed that. So kind of going to Seattle was going to be such a kind of critical shift in the energies for that sort of last chapter. Before what Mike referred to as the coda, which I loved. It's like, the album's done, it's time for the coda.
Yeah. If you think of Scarlet's Walk, the album, musically, our last week has really felt like Gold Dust feels at the end of the album. Slower pace, more reflective. We're with friends. We're creating memories while talking about memories. It's just that lovely wind down until we went to Six Flags. But
I forgot until Monday, and I'm like, oh, I've got this now.
Oh, yeah.
Lovely. I mean,
yes,
that sounds like something really awful happened. The opposite of awful happened. Something really quite wonderful.
Absolutely delightful.
Happened, but just, these serendipitous moments of like, oh, the trip is far from over. There's, if anything, it was like, you think you know what you're going back to. You think you know what life is going to become now. You ain't got shit of an idea, bitch.
I don't know at all what I'm going back to. Like I
thought I had a shape of it. I thought I kind of, but
I'm like, what? I sell books? Is that what I do?
Yeah, well, let's hope it's still what you do.
Yes.
No, like that thing of just sort of thinking, we talk, the first episode of this podcast, I think we even opened with talking about how it was going to be a life-changing adventure. And yet somehow the parts of it that have
been life-changing have
really,
surprised us.
yeah, like, I think I had a scope. I was like, good, you can change my life in one of these 4 ways.
Yeah. It's like you don't get to put parameters on the way life will affect you. Yeah. It don't work that way.
It don't. So we arrived in Seattle, staying with the wonderful Dan and Pat, who are just the most beautiful, sexy humans,
but just warm and generous, and like we're just sitting around and talking about the heat, and then they start like quietly discussing how they should put out a public service announcement that people who don't have aircon should come to their house.
Yeah.
It's like they're so community minded. They care about other people. In fact, the other conversation that was going on between them a lot in our time there was they're going to Burning Man, and Burning Man, the whole philosophy behind it is what you can bring to offer the community. And so they had the amount that they were putting on and putting together to offer the Burning Man community was so incredibly wonderful and full. Like they had a full schedule. This is what's happening on this night, this night, this night. These are all of the different ways that
markets, food, entertainment,
like,
art,
free crop top day, like
if you're going to Burning Man, lucky you, because and find the Tori Amos camp.
Yeah, they're having a Tori Amos only night where you can karaoke, you can request a particular video to be played or a live performance, or there's a dance taking his sheet music and he can play a song for you, or
it's just going to be this like beautiful curation of.
I'm so jealous and wish I was there. I want to go to Burning Man now.
Oh,
that's next time.
Actually, couldn't get me there with a stick at this point. But like, I'm sure it's lovely.
So like camping,
heat, desert nudity. No, it's just not. I've hit the end of my rope with. Give me a pair of high heels. My God, that's literally like I'm like, I want my heels back. I want my.
Because your excessive height isn't enough.
This is not about need.
I want to tower.
I want
everything.
to be 6'5", okay? No, but it's like I'm ready for cold and cups of tea and writing and like, because I've not really lent into that as much as you have. I'm facing the reality that, I'm going back to a very different life than I'd imagined for the next half of the year, where, recouping from this trip financially and spiritually is going to turn me to something that I haven't been for a very long time, which is very indoors and introverted and yeah, I am. I'm going to go a bit quiet for a while.
I feel like every time I did a tarot pull, I got the Hermit.
Yes, that's true.
All right, I get it. I gotta sit down and do the work now.
Yes, we does. So we saw Dan and Pat. We also got to hang out with the wonderful
Ryan Crawford, who you got to hear on the Crazy episode, and you got to hear Dan on the Carpin episode.
So it's like you know these people.
Yeah, we're all family here, including you.
Yes, you
Oh, listener,
committed.
who has somehow made it to episode
poor
18.
Fucker, I don't understand.
But
we love you all the same.
Yeah.
Yeah. But Monday kind of ended up being a really transformative day. This is our sort of, we got into Seattle on Sunday night, and Monday was always the plan that I was going to go to the aquarium and meet this person who I mentioned them in the Crazy episode, we've been chatting since Florida, and it was kind of this, well, we'll go to the aquarium and we'll just see kind of where the day leads us. And suffice it to say that...
it led closer and closer to each other.
It did. It kind of knocked me over the feather how kind of this person just really lent into all of, their anxieties and discomforts to recognize that there was kind of something special brewing. And, we just kind of kept leaning into it through the day. And of course, we then reached the point where we're like, well, have we fucked up? Because now what? Like, I get to spend a day with you and that's it? And do we just kind of leave it here? And we've decided not to just leave it in Seattle. And yeah, he's come to mean a great deal to me, because I think what kind of occurred in Seattle was that actually we've been doing this for like a month and a half of connecting, and it just doesn't, if anything, it just seems to get more, it just becomes more wonderful over time, not kind of less, and seeing each other was kind of a real culmination of all of that. So we ended up kind of having this really beautiful day together. He came and had dinner with us, and then we went out to Pony Bar together, which if you're in Seattle, go to Pony and just look at all the porn on the walls. That's like pretty much all that's required.
I would just like to put a vote out there for more trans diverse bodies represented on walls in explicit ways.
Yes, absolutely. It was
in
amazing.
Exactly the same way that you see cis bodies in those sorts of spaces all the time.
Like we went, we went to Eagle last time we were in LA, and like there's actual, this is an open bar, like open to the public. It's like friggin' actual fucking playing out on the walls. And we went to Mr. S Leather in San Francisco. Once again, cis male porn everywhere. So to be at somewhere like Pony where there are it's a masc environment, it's a gay environment, but that there are
trans masc,
T dicks and vulvas, and presented in just as horny and fetishy,
and not just one. Like it was not the token trans guy on the wall. It was like there were plenty of them around.
I mean, there could have been more, but
there could have been more,
yeah,
but always there could have been.
Yeah, there could always be more.
Always be
my
more.
God, you can never get enough. What?
Right. So
before
before we move any further, I need to say, from my perspective, two things.
I need to make a little speech here.
I just need to make a little speech. Look at me, look at me, look at me. I've got 2 words to say to you.
Go back to Brett Toot, sweet, you'll never be in. If you're not watching Kath and Kim, I don't know why you're listening to the podcast.
The amount of Kath and Kim that has been quoted back and forth is...
You've pretty much watched it all.
But also, we may as well have been doing a Kath and Kim road trip.
That's what we'll do around Australia. We'll
go around the airport for 2 days.
We'll do a Kath and Kim road trip around Victoria. Just a special feature season of like 3 episodes.
Oh, stop. I'm so on board with all of the happy feels that Bailey is going through. And I think this person is a delight too. And the other thing I wanted to say is just to reassure you all, listeners, I have missed no opportunity to give a shit about it. Like, every available opportunity.
I feel like I got a bit confused there because you're just like, I have not missed an opportunity to give a shit about it. Like,
Give
I don't give a
her
shit.
shit.
Do not give a shit.
I have been ribbing.
Yes, Michael has been ripping into this smitten kitten like nobody's business. No one does it quite as well as they do.
And
But it's
sometimes I even get into like giving him a bit of shit too, because like the voicemails that are going back and forth are just epic. And so I like to interject whenever possible. And I mean, honestly, we're in the car together all the time. We're in rooms together all the time. You can't maintain that kind of relationship and not have me be a part of it.
Absolutely not. And we wouldn't have it any other way. Like, I think that's just been the fact that, you know, he's been kind of so on board with the dynamic and just really been in the sort of ridiculous, wonderful spirit of everything all on the way is, yeah. But anyway, so...
We're not here to talk about love. We're here to talk about heartbreak.
Yes, exactly right. So, I mean, cut to leaving each other.
But then Scarlett had a way of giving them more time.
Yes, she did. We were supposed to leave on Tuesday to head to Portland. We were going to get up, you know, and head off early in the morning so we could take a bunch of photos and go do tick off a few things.
In Seattle City again. And then the aim was to, about midday, 12:30, leave Portland, leave
Seattle.
for Portland.
Yeah.
However, in the morning I wake up and I get ready and I am looking around for everything. And then it comes to a time when I'm like, oh, the tote bag that I had with me yesterday containing my passport, my credit cards, my tablet, my SLR camera, my $600 headphones. Gone.
Yeah, it's not here.
Not here. And I had a very distinct memory of putting it on the raised bar behind me when we sat down at the pony bar. I had a somewhat hazy memory of putting it in the car at my feet when we left.
Slightly inebriated recollection.
I was happily tipsy, I think I'll recall. Happily tipsy is my target each time I drink. I don't need to go beyond that. But I had zero recollection of removing it from the car. And so I'm like, did my happily tipsy brain invent the hazy memory of putting it in the car? Is it at Pony Bar on the, like, where I left it?
Yeah, and we fucking hope it is.
I didn't panic.
No, we did very well.
I
We were
thought
like,
I knew exactly where it was. And providing another patron didn't pick it up and take it away, which is unlikely. Usually people just hand things in. Like, it is a queer space.
Yeah, you should be.
Queers are usually pretty good. The problem was Pony Bar didn't reopen until 5 p.m, which just disrupted our day's plans considerably.
Because there were definitely a fair few things. There were a lot of boxes to tick while we were in Portland, and I was going there to work on my first poetry collection with Matt Katz, who is the producer or co-producer. So it was kind of like, well, shit, this could really kind of blow out our time. But I kind of jumped on the bandwagon of like, well, if we're going to sort of be stuck in Seattle for an indefinite amount of time while we figure things out, then the opportunity will come around for him to come spend some time with us. So he came and we all had breakfast and hung out.
Well, by hung out, like...
There was some time...
I was sitting on the bed working on the podcast and I'm like, no, I should go out to the living room and be social. And there was a 30-second exchange in the living room before all of a sudden they were in the bedroom.
We were just... And like, nothing untoward was going on. But like...
I don't know. All of that cuddly, smoochy stuff. Ask any, like, 9-year-old, they'll tell you it's gross.
All I know is that I had someone yelling from the lounge room, "You two keep the door open!"
Yep. I know how to make people feel uncomfortable.
No, you didn't. It was so friggin' funny. Pat was working away and like, it just was a really wonderful time to just enjoy intimacy and just kind of, and I mean, like, we hadn't kind of had much of that. We were, we went to the aquarium and then we rode the big Ferris wheel and we went like swimming and we hung out in a park, like, and then we went to dinner. We kind of had like a very full day of things. And so to try and just have a period where we could just be in each other's company and laugh and clown and yeah, enjoy that sort of closeness, was really, really special, and really unexpected. So we kind of did, I think he got there at like 8:30, and then so it was a good 4 hours of being together.
In this time, I'd emailed the bar to try and make contact with them, because their phone was obviously ringing out. They didn't open till 5. Pat was like, oh, actually, I know someone who works there. I'll try and get in touch with him. And so he was onto that. But like, this is bar staff who work from 5 till 3 in the morning. Like, they're just not going to be up and about at 8:30 in the morning. So that took time. And then we also devised the plan that should we have not had word from the bar about a time that we can go and pick it up,
By sort of the
by
12:30.
12:30, Bailey would drive to Portland so she can do the work she needed to do, and I would catch the Amtrak down after, like, because the bar opened at 5, there was an Amtrak at 6, and so then I would get a lovely 3-hour train ride through the countryside and get into Portland at 9, and everything would be fine.
Yeah, kind of like, it was like, oh, this actually isn't a bad
Yeah.
outcome, because then you could have just chilled in Seattle for the day, which would have been really nice. So 12:30 comes around. There is no word about the bag.
still haven't.
They'd found a bag.
Oh, yeah.
But the bag didn't quite meet the description of what we would have used.
I kept thinking, that's not how I would describe my bag, but I maybe could see how someone else would
Yeah.
describe my bag that way. So, like, because, yeah, someone had found a bag last night and turned it in. And so,
And how many bags? Would
how
be
many
left?
bags
Yeah.
can be left in a
So we're
in a
just.
dive bar on a Monday night?
But by 12:30, there kind of hadn't been any word on when we could pick the bag up. So I, had to detach myself and untangle myself from this beautiful person. And as I got off the bed, I put my feet down on the floor and looked down between them. And there was a bag there. And I took the bag. I think it was, are you fucking kidding me? And I picked up the bag and walked into the bar. I was like, Michael, is this the bag? And the look on your face of like pure bewilderment was like, where did you find that?
I
Like,
had
it literally was
searched
in
everywhere.
the bedroom.
I searched everywhere except for
um,
where it was.
Yeah, well, yes. Fucking- And we kind of all were very much in this kind of ooky spooky, Scarlett. It felt very much like Scarlett's design that would give me and this person just that bit of time together to really cement that there was something real kind of unfolding.
Because at the end of the day, we then left at 12:30 as planned,
Yeah.
so we were not late to Portland. Nothing was lost or missing.
No?
All that we missed out on was photos of places we had already been, just didn't take photos.
Yeah, that's right.
And so,
And a pair of socks.
and I was going to buy a pair of socks, but so we sacrificed the socks as
We
well.
did. However, we did receive like 80,000 pairs of socks.
Oh yes, because
From-
when we got to Portland, Matt, his day job is managing sock distribution company.
Yeah.
Sales
Yeah.
into retail
He had a whole bunch of like
so
samples and
stuff. And
yeah.
so he pulled out this entire giant box that we could rummage
You
through.
pilfered that thing. It was great.
And so I have plenty of socks with me now.
But yeah, so we had a really wonderful kind of last day in Seattle. Then headed to Portland, and the joy continued with staying with Matt and his husband Aaron.
Oh, so delightful.
Yeah, and just
If there is like a gorgeous fairy angel mother goddess person on this planet, it's Matt Katz.
it's Matt Katz.
His talent when it comes to music astounds me,
Hmm.
and his open heart and compassion is just so incredible.
Yeah, if you've ever had it bestowed upon you, we count ourselves very lucky people who have Matt Katz in our life. You'll recognise his work from the beginning of this podcast.
Yes, and we were not paid for those compliments.
No, nor did we pay him for all the goods.
But I paid him for the music.
Oh, good.
Yes, because I believe
Thank
in
you
paying
for the
artists.
music. Yay!
paying artists what they're worth.
We also got to catch up with the beautiful Rose Cress, who drove all the way up to us from near Albany. We met Rose pretty early in the trip in Oakland.
On the tour, like when we stumbled into a coffee place because it
was so hot.
We're like so hot, and we're like, we need iced beverages.
And met Rose and just formed a beautiful friendship with her. And so she came and spent some time with us, just blowing our minds quite literally with her sort of knowledge of all things, you know.
She was talking to Bailey, well, both of us, about like healing and trauma and her practice
and the
with
hypothalamus
yoga and how it functions in your brain.
Biology.
And Bailey's brain literally shut down.
I literally had to be like, I'm literally in the middle of a conversation, like, this is all really nice. I need to lie down like now. My brain is completely melting. And I just like, I think with the advent of this man, like kind of rocking up in my life, and it feels super vulnerable saying that, you know, in this kind of setting. With the advent of that, it was like the whole 2 months just hit me like a truck. And it's suddenly the whole process of what we've been through, I just started to absorb. And I finally felt safe enough and still enough to just kind of be like, what has been happening? What have we been through? What have we managed to kind of push ourselves through? It was kind of just all really raining down on me. And I just started to, you know, I started to break down, not in a bad way, like not in a sad way, but like your mind and your body can just sort of hit these points where it just will start to melt because you've put too much in it to process.
Well, that makes me think of my day that day. I woke up before everyone else, as is usually how I go about things. And so I was actually out of bed by 7 that morning. And it occurred to me that it was Wednesday, and we were in Wednesday territory. And it was a quiet morning at a house where we were just chilling, and so I decided that I was just going to have a little moment to myself. And I took my headphones and my tablet out and sat on the hammock.
In the beautiful garden that Aaron has crafted. I wish I'd taken more photos of it. Seriously, it was like some Enid Blyton bullshit, I'm telling you.
So there I was with like the sky just beginning to lighten. There was still no sun over the horizon or even through the trees on the horizon. And I thought, well, I'm going to start this day with listening to this song. And I put on Wednesday, and part of me was like, you're lying around in a hammock. Are you just sitting around being foolish when there is work to be done? And then I'm like, no, actually,
this is the work.
This is the work. Because I started journaling, I was writing poetry, I was just processing, having a moment to myself. And then I felt prompted to do a guided meditation, which I did a lot when I first got out of the relationship. I relied heavily on a few guided meditations by a particular woman. So here's me non-paid sponsored ad. But if you download the Insight Timer app, that's what it's called, Insight Timer. It's basically a free guided meditation app. They've got music, they've got various kinds of guided meditation. Anyway, I downloaded that at one of my therapist's promptings years and years ago, and just stumbled upon this woman called Sarah Blondin, who writes the most gorgeous guided meditations. And I haven't done one of these for probably 6 months or so. And they're really, and quite sporadically before then even, they kind of fell out of habit. But here I was, something was telling me to do it, and I saw one that was called Holding Center, and it was new. I'd not seen it before. So I thought, well, that's actually what I need right now. Like, the whole point of me coming out here to have a quiet moment was to find myself. And it just, I was bawling. It was so exactly what I needed to hear, because she talks about how, in this particular one, how you naturally find yourself preferencing, wanting only the good things in life and rejecting the bad things that happen. And she just reminds you that actually life is a tension between those two things, and you need to find your still center. And then she starts describing like the visual meditation that she's guiding you on is picturing yourself sinking, settling like sand onto an island that is within you. And this is an island where there is no judgment and you are loved exactly as you are and whatever you're feeling, etc., etc. And it was just so what I needed to hear, that because I've had a lot of emotional stuff going on this week. I felt very unsettled in my life, in just what will happen when I get home, what has happened over the last month, 2 months. I do feel very disrupted by this trip. As essential as it was, and as like, I'm not trying to downplay or like disregard, I don't even know what I'm saying anymore, but yeah, it's natural that 2 months of travel, particularly with this kind of emotional content, would leave you feeling a little disrupted.
Yeah.
And so just hearing that, and the fact that I was prompted to do it, just, it was so good. Yeah. And so I highly recommend that.
Yeah. I recommend it too because I woke up to a very different person when I came across you that morning. Like, your energy had completely shifted. It had really done a number on you, I could tell, and I could see that it was super valuable. And as we sort of headed out into that day where we went looking at books and we spent a bunch of time, we got to meet the incredible Carol, who does really community-minded drag in Portland under the name Marla Darling, and telling us her story. Yeah, we just were. I found that we were suddenly somehow, Carol. It wasn't enough time.
No.
And it certainly wasn't enough capacity. Like, we were both kind of really, really full human. We were full as a cook.
But thank you so much for letting me interview you for your book. And if people are still listening to this and haven't got in touch with me about being interviewed for the book, I really am open to doing it via Zoom, and you don't feel like you don't have anything to offer. I feel like I want to be hearing all voices on this.
Even things you've witnessed have an incredible... This was something that I learned when I was doing my thesis on consent. Every interview started like that. I don't know if I really have a story. I'm like, well, that's all right. Let's just ask you some questions and we'll see what kind of happens. And guaranteed by the end of it, it may not have been something that person felt they experienced directly, but what they had observed had a marked impact on their life. That counts. Even if it's something you've supported a friend through, or seen a family member go through, or watched in a TV show and had an effect on you, that stuff counts. Because that has a real life impact on you and your ability to process.
I'm gathering voices and perspectives, and I want as wide a gamut as I can get. So if you're up for being interviewed, please reach out. You can fill out the form that's available on my website.
I'm gonna do it.
You'll let me interview you?
Mm-hmm. Be a long one.
Well, I also interview this person, this man in your life.
Oh, that's entirely...
What are your intentions?
Oh my God, don't. I'll kill you. And Michael, you already freaked him out by suggesting that you wanted more of his laugh on the podcast. And I told him that. He was like, "You put my laugh on your podcast?"
Oh, I want to. It's gorgeous.
His laugh is great.
Anyway, let's embarrass him less.
Yes, let's.
Because I will embarrass till I'm blue in the face.
But give the poor guy a break. So yeah, we got to see some wonderful people in Portland.
And Mike Carrigan.
Oh my goodness, the sweetest.
Just a dream.
A peach, who made the most delicious cake, and this beautiful salad. And
he made watermelon isopops from scratch.
They were fucking delicious too.
And like, even though he was presenting all of this, he was lamenting that he didn't get to make his 10-layer cake as well. And what time were we leaving the next day? Could he try and get it done? And it's like, no, we're leaving at 5.
Which he stayed up until 5 anyway. So you could have made us the cake, you stingy prick. No, we like, it must been a really wonderful thing is these people are all people who came into our lives at the beginning of the pandemic. The first time I met Dan and Pat was on a naked Zoom. Literally, I was staying in my parents' house. I'd flown back from London. I was pre-transition. Like, I'd literally just flown back, in the wake of COVID hitting, and this kind of, well, we're just going to do a little Zoom catch up for some people who are fans of Tory who are queer. And I kind of jumped on it. It was like, I don't know, 2 p.m. my time, and it was lovely. And that kind of blossomed into a time where Dan curated a weekly, sometimes 5-hour-long Zoom concert of live footage and interviews with Tori, and people literally gathered from all over the world to just be together and connect. And so many of the people that we've seen on this tour are people who
we met through that.
Literally.
It would get to the point where, because of time zones, a lot of those turned out to be on at 11 a.m. Monday morning our time.
they were our work days.
So I'd have it on while I was at work, or while I was working from home, or even while I was at work occasionally. I'd just put my headphones on, do the work, have that going in the background. People being like, are you in a shop? I'm like, yes, this is where I work. But I love the way Tori's music brings people together.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter where you are in the world, you can still connect and make genuine connections.
Yeah.
And Mike and I had a great long chat while Bailey and Matt were doing some more recording.
Yeah.
Knowing that we had to get up at 4:30 to leave at 5, they thought 1:30 was a good time to start recording.
It was 11:30, but in all fairness, we did not finish until 3 a.m. for a 4:30 wake up. So yeah, Portland to San Francisco takes out hardest drive.
Yeah, because it was the longest drive on the least amount of sleep. We even pulled over and had a kip.
We had to. It was
like
we were causing
3 hours
we
down
didn't
the
want to
road.
cause anyone any danger. But like, to speak of, referring back to your wake up at 7 and have your big cry. I had that on the morning before I met this guy, on the Monday morning, because Matt had sent me the first kind of draft of the next release from my upcoming collection that he's been producing. And I freaking cannot wait to share this song out there. I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the first one that he's made is already out. The first one that we've made together is out. God. You can find it on Spotify if you look up Turner Space X. That's my artist name on Spotify. Or if you look up GXD, God spelt with an X instead of an O, you should be able to find it. It's pretty intense, but 123 Galaxy, which is the next one, I kind of explain. I'll have to once it's out, I'll explain how special it is. But I was a mess listening to it because of what it spoke to about where I'm at in my life and where I was at in my life when I wrote it. And it's in some ways that piece is a culmination of over a decade's worth of work and adoration of another artist who features on the track, and investing in fallen art, like art that doesn't kind of reach its destination but finds another way. And that'll all make sense when you hear it, but it's really fucking special. And it was a special day to hear that when I was really taking some advice from Michael, and we'll talk a bit about that when we do Advice for Virginia.
Yes.
Before we get to that...
Well, I just wanted to say, while you were working, Mike and I had a fantastic chat. Mike knows so much about the music industry. He used to work in it. Just the little tidbits and knowledge of processes and stuff. Talking music with Mike is just put it on your agenda of goals in life, to have conversation with Mike Carrigan about music, and don't just shoot the breeze, because the things that come out naturally are incredible. Anyway, we had an epic conversation about Roshan Murphy, who we both are obsessed with, and while he massaged my head and shoulders. Like, it was a good exchange.
Yes. Ken Oath. I got a small little neck rub before we all kind of turned in, and can confirm Mike Carrigan's hands are the bomb. But we got to see yet another incredible bookstore.
Oh, Powell's. My goodness. I thought we'd clocked up enough good bookshops.
And we're about to try one today as well, so...
Oh, yeah. That's a different style of bookshop, though.
We'll tell you, you'll hear more about it in the next episode.
Yes. So tonight, what am I saying?
I don't know, we're broken, like we are. We're like, we're about to get on a 20-hour flight.
So we walk into Powell's, where it is epic. Like, it's so big, and the rooms are color-coded, and you just, like, it'll say the section that you want is in the purple room, or I had to go down to the rose room to find the kids section, and we were there for what, an hour?
Not long enough.
Not long enough, but like an hour. And I basically only perused the all ages graphic novels and the teen graphic novels, and idly glanced at a couple of other sections and came away spending $100.
Like the book, the quality of what they... But like, we were told, because we'd been to, in Columbus, Ohio, we'd been to, what was it called? Book City, or my brain's
Book
gone.
Loft.
Yes, the Book Loft, which is,
Yeah.
a 38 strong, like we talked about it in I think in the Taxi Ride episode, about how just like
It's
a
this
warren is
rambling
beautiful.
warren of... So you take that, but just give it more space, and you've got Powell's.
But we're just, because we were told, oh, it's like Book Loft, but more, we were like, that cannot be.
Sure.
Far.
And I'm like,
no.
can I just stay here for 3 weeks and I still won't be done?
I think that's what's on the agenda for, I don't know, our 10-year return visit or whatever it is. Because just
2
hang
weeks
out
stay
in
in
Pals.
Portland just for Pals.
The thing was that because Book Loft, by comparison, was so dense and wild, you kind of got lost in the experience of walking through it, and like the collection was just so full on. I didn't really remember seeing a lot of books. Like I just saw walls of them, but they were more like, it was more decorative. But in Pals, every single book I had to have and I had to read. I took so many photos of jackets and have built this Hermione Granger strong reading list from what we saw at Pals. And I only went to one room too. I was only in the purple room.
Yeah.
To look at the LGBT stuff and the spirituality stuff. I think I did one display, and one stack was enough to take up the entire time of just and perusing little books and looking at things.
Yeah, I took so many photos of graphic novels that I will be stocking in the little book room as soon as I can, because there was just so many that I hadn't seen before, and I've seen a lot, and I pay attention.
Yeah.
And so to just come across so many that I'm like, oh, that'd sell for us. Oh, that looks fun. I want it. Just constantly.
It was an amazing space.
That was Portland. And we wanted to connect with one of the friends we met through these Zooms, who lives in Eugene, which is 2 hours south of Portland. And we were wondering how to go about that. And originally, we were planning on staying in Crescent City. And so we would stop for lunch in Eugene as we drove down. But then we decided we needed more time in San Fran, so we cancelled our night in Crescent City and decided to haul ass, as they say, from Portland to San Fran, which for those playing at home is a 10-hour drive.
Without stops.
And so I was like, oh, but how can we see Sean in Eugene? And so I text him and I'm like, oh, I'm really sorry, but our plans have changed. Unless you're available for breakfast at 7 o'clock in the morning, because we were leaving at 5, so we will have been driven for 2 hours, arrive in Eugene, we could have breakfast with you before then heading off and driving all the way to San Fran. And he was so on board with that, and he took us out to this gorgeous little cafe.
It was, wasn't it?
And bought us breakfast, and just start the day in the usual way, stop thinking why not, and stop for a coffee, as he said in his Instagram story. But
It was,
it was just so lovely to meet these people in person. Sean's
Yeah.
so lovely.
Sean and I just met. Sean had the brilliant idea of making like a little Tori Amos music video for Dan for his birthday. And me and Sean met kind of through making that, and formed a really, really close bond because to give you some context, the night of my transition, you know, and like I am one of the few people who can kind of dial their transition down to like a single moment. And yes, there was, you know, a long journey before that, but I remember the night I first felt the euphoria of my true gender was one of the most amazing experiences of my life, and I felt so happy until my brain came in and went, you're going to lose your connection to that group, because at that time, that group of Tori fans were very much gay men, and it was like that was their identity, and that was kind of what bonded them all. And I went, well, I'm going to lose that because I'm no longer a gay man as of this moment. And the thought of losing these friendships was terrifying and so deeply upsetting, and it took some really critical conversations in that time I needed to have with people like Geordie, for a start, who we spent time with in Fresno, who I've known for 12 years and loved for, you know, a good solid 7 of those. Not just being kind of people who knew each other on Instagram, but being people who were important to each other. And Sean Paul was one of my biggest advocates, who came to the table and shared his own experiences with gender and with queerness and with life and trauma. He's just one of the most open-hearted people I've ever come across, and you know, I think have seen him go through a world of emotion these past 2 years, and the fact that he kind of came to us just so earnestly, it was really, really special, and it was a beautiful sort of means by which we could then, it was a beautiful send-off from Oregon, put it that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's so lovely.
We love you, Sean.
Should we stop torturing the people and
Yeah, and
move into the final phase?
Yeah.
Well, we've got a bonus phase, so this episode's going to go on for a bit longer. But
we'll get to our last piece of advice for Virginia.
Yeah, advice for Virginia. My advice is the day is what you make it. And by that I mean, if you don't speak out about your doubts, you're accepting the uncertainty in your life.
And the instability that
and
it
the
brings.
instability that, uncertainty brings. And so I'm not saying anything that bad happens is your fault. I'm not saying that kind of the day is what you make it. But I'm saying you have to look at what you're going through and decide actively how you're going to accept or process or change that and respond to it, because your responses are your own. Sometimes they are driven by a panic or a fear, or so sometimes it is a very conscious thing that you need to do to sort of take a minute and just be like, what is going on with me today and what am I going to do with that?
Yeah. Well, that's what I kind of hope people take from the story that you told at the top of this episode. Like, if you're a person who listened to Michael's story and thinks, oh, I could never do that, or I can't understand that, then, you know, I hate to break it to you, but like, you've got something going on, because I know that's what I've felt in previous times of hearing that story, and I recognize that's all my shit, where if an opportunity for breakdown comes to you, that is a beautiful opportunity. If your mind is willing to kind of jump off the edge, and you're willing to process at that kind of speed and that kind of intensity, that should be a real signal to you about what you have been doing to yourself and the torture you have put upon your own person for God knows how long, that you've reached the end of your rope. And there are people who will never face those realities, will go to their deathbeds refusing to acknowledge the truth of what they've encountered, because they don't have the time or the patience or the self-love to let themselves break down, or let themselves be sad, or let themselves feel euphoric or dysphoric about whatever it is that's going on. Like, there was very much a moment, thinking now, like, as I'm just sort of riffing off the fact that, like, when I transitioned, coming back to that moment for a sec, I sat in that bathroom crying and feeling so happy, but also going, can't I just not? Do I like? Can I not do this right now? Like not now. I've just got back to the country. I'm trying to deal with my life turning upside down because there's this now, serious illness, and it was hitting me as well that I wasn't going to go back to London. This life that I had worked my ass off for and gone broke for was not going to eventuate the way that I wanted, and I suddenly had this piece of information. But it was like, well, this is what's in front of you. You either take it or you lose. You lose. There will only be so many windows of opportunity for you to be present to your own life.
Yeah.
And that's the stuff of life. The breakdowns and the small windows of opportunity where you could just fall in love for a day. Like, that's the stuff of life.
Tying it in with Wednesday, pluck up the courage and snap, it's gone again. My reaction in that hotel room was I just couldn't see those 15 years as anything but a giant mass that I just couldn't do anything with and had wasted. Like, I felt devastated at the wasted, in inverted commas, time that I spent with him when both of us were so unfulfilled. Like if we're honest, I don't see how that relationship was fulfilling for him. And so it's not as if it was entirely one-sided. We were so fixated on having the relationship last that we sacrificed both of our own happinesses. And even though, yes, he was inflicting these things upon me and treating me in ways that you shouldn't be treating a partner, and even though I was doing things that were really not okay in my dealing with all of that, if we had just taken a moment to make the day
what it was,
yeah, what we want to make it, then perhaps we could have gotten out of that sooner and both gone found happiness. Perhaps, I don't know, with a bit of honesty on his part, we could have... Oh, my watch is telling me that I'm stressed.
The shade.
I know. It's like, you don't know me. I will point out that on this trip, it has tickled my fancy when it has told me that I'm stressed. So my watch measures my heartbeat and electrical pulses in my body, etc., etc. And so every now and then it's like, are you feeling stressed? Take a moment to breathe. The time that it made me laugh out loud when it did this was when I was looking at Edward Gorey original line drawings that were for sale and very expensive. And I was like, do I? And my watch is like, are you stressed? I'm like, shut up, you don't know me. Anyway,
I just want to spend $8,000 on a portrait.
Oh, please. Yeah, maybe things would have gone very differently if both of us, either of us, had just taken a moment and been like, this is the situation that I'm in. How am I going to approach it in a way that will actually move it forward, rather than just shutting our eyes and hoping for the best?
Because that's what you made those days. That's what you made it then.
Exactly. And so I looked back and I now have 15 years of shutting my eyes and hoping for the best. That hurt like fuck. And so
don't do that, Virginia.
Don't do that, Virginia.
Poor Virginia. My advice for Virginia on this most blessed hump day is a little phrase that I have picked up from, this is something that the kids say from what I give you. This is a little TikTok, but it's kind of entered the sort of public discourse, and I just have really taken to it, and which is a phrase that seems to me
eloquent.
to encapsulates. I think it was initially kind of developed as an almost confrontational statement, but has really kind of become about, I don't know, I just think it's actually a very interesting philosophy for life, and which is, fuck around and find out. And that's my kind of advice for Virginia, is to do that.
Isn't that how science progresses?
Yeah, something like that. But it's that notion of anything that you think you know about how relationships should or must work, just chuck it in the bin, because every person is different. Every interaction will be different. You kind of have no choice but to fuck around and find out, but be open, be willing to make mistakes, be caring of yourself in the notion that everyone is friggin' making this shit up as we go along. And the only way to make a good relationship is to live it, is to take each moment as it comes, be present, and have fun with it as best you can, and be real about what it's offering you and what you can offer it. Do your reading, do your homework, go to therapy, like do all the things that will fulfill you in whatever it is you're encountering. Just be alive in it. Try not to be too observant of something more than you are active and real and honest inside of it. Yeah, fuck everything that you think you know about relationships or life in general. While you are, I mean, this is a message for Aquarians in particular, while you are busy intellectualizing it, it is passing you the fuck by. So freaking do a lot less thinking about it and a lot more being in it. Yeah. Because that's what this trip has taught me, if anything else.
I will just say, I feel like if you took all of our advice for Virginia's and put them back to back, they would leapfrog from stop and think about it. Don't think about it too much. Lean into it.
Yeah. Don't think about it at all. Just do the thing. Yeah, literally that.
But obviously, all of this advice is to just be more mindful, I guess. And mindfulness can be letting go and experiencing.
Absolutely. Well, if you've hit a great point of mindfulness practice, that is what it enables you to do. Is you're being focused as an autopilot situation, and you're just able to access every part of your mind whilst you're alive in the moment.
Yeah. So apply as needed.
Yes, exactly. And while you're doing that, here are some songs to listen to.
Yes.
Our final song swap.
Our final song swap. Well, the song swap will live on.
Yes.
I don't know if we explained this properly when we first started talking about song swap, but I actually have a song swap form on my website for the Michael's Walk project page that is designed to basically give each other a prescription. So if you go in there and fill it out, it's just, I'm asking you for 3 different songs. One's your top Tory song / top song of your top artist. Like, we don't have to limit it to Tory. The second is a Tory song that you want to gift to me for this project. Again, if you're not terribly familiar with Tory, you can just gift me a song by someone that you love. And then the third one is a song by any person that has brought you healing. And I'm making a playlist out of them. And then if you like, you can put your email address in and a little thing that you're dealing with emotionally at this point in time, and I will respond with my own song prescriptions for you. And it's a lovely little exchange. I'm really enjoying it. And so that's where the song swap idea came from. And so...
Well, it started with us, didn't it?
Yeah, because we prescribe Tory songs to each other all the time.
Yeah.
When we're feeling a certain something.
Just need a little but here are our last Michael's Walk podcast season 1 song swaps.
Yes. As mentioned by Tori herself, go start humming When Doves Cry.
Yeah, When Doves Cry is definitely on the list. The original is by Prince. I also love the version by Quentin Tarver. You can't get it on Spotify, but it is on YouTube. It's the version from Baz Luhrmann's Romeo and Juliet. Yeah. Baz Luhrmann is an Australian filmmaker. The film has Leonardo DiCaprio and Claire Danes in it. It's great. But just the version that you can find on YouTube is just incredible. I also wanted to put in Me and Julio Down by the Schoolyard by Simon and Garfunkel. I friggin' love this song, and I feel like the connection it has to Wednesday is that it is this really quite bouncy, sweet song, but once you kind of get into the lyric, it actually belies something dark and tragic and intense and something quite inexplicable kind of going on. So it's a great song for that. I actually started writing the Wednesday poem
Oh, yes.
based on that song.
Oh,
And I'm really
awesome.
excited about that.
Fantastic.
And also because, what would a Bailey song swap be without a Tracy Chapman song? Is a song called Remember the Tin Man. From the album New Beginning. It's the last song. This song is all about feeling like your heart's been stolen or lost in some way. And trying to understand what happened to your heart. And without this being the part of the episode where I cry, like that's really how I've been feeling for a lot of this time. And I'm scared to say that because I feel very, very worried that me saying that is going to upset two really important people to me. And I've been really, really scared to talk about how heartbroken I have been because my heartbreak doesn't have much to do anymore to the person who broke my heart, and I still have a lot of care for that human. And there's this great quote by Kristen Bell when she talks about her relationship where she says, "He was very responsible with my heart even though he broke it." And that's exactly how I feel about this particular human being, that I don't have any feelings of ill will to this human. I believe what he did was right. It's just that the reality was that the right thing to do was to break my heart in that moment. And I have been on a far longer journey of recovering from that than I wanted. I really reached a place when we're in Seattle where I went, I think I've lost that person. Like that's that. I don't have. There's nothing further to be done. As tempting as it is for me to continue to do whatever I can to keep some kind of connection going, this is the advice that I've received from multiple people. It's like, you've done the best you can, and even though you want to have done more and you want to have done better, you want to have been a better person in the wake of that relationship, I can't change what has happened. And that's really what Wednesday has taught me. That you can only do what you can do based on who you were at the time. We can all look back and go, well, I wish I'd taken this on differently, or I wish I'd been in a better headspace at that moment. Yeah, but you weren't. And you did it the way that you did it, and that's okay too.
Yeah.
It's not 15 years down the tubes.
Yeah.
You could only have been who you were at the time and done your best based on who you were. And so all that you should show yourself ultimately is unending forgiveness. Because
I don't know what that is.
I'll beat it out of you. But it's so Remember the Tin Man is like, what happened to this heart. But the end of the song, to kind of, give away the kind of punchline of it, is like, remember the Tin Man who found he had what he thought he lacked. No one is running without a heart. It's, you have it. You just think you don't.
It was inside all
along. It's a beautiful, beautiful song. Yeah, I can recommend.
My songs for this one, Relief Next to Me by Tegan and Sarah came to mind because it's very much about a relationship that's become uncommunicative, and particularly it alludes to an unfulfilling sexual relationship as well, but I think there's a lot more to it than that. And the chorus is, "But I promise this, I won't go my whole life telling you I don't need."
Yeah.
Which just sums it up so much for me, because there were 15 years where I was like, oh no, it's fine. I'm fine.
Yeah.
I'll sacrifice what I need and what I want to make this happen.
Yeah.
And that doesn't have to be on a sexual level. It can be on any level whatsoever. You have to voice what you need, especially before anyone can actually make sure they're meeting that need.
Yeah. And no one who loves you doesn't want that information.
Exactly.
I would never be happy knowing that my relationship existed on a plane in which the other person or people felt like they couldn't tell me the truth about whether the relationship was right for them in its current shape or not, and therefore open the opportunity for that relationship to evolve in a positive way.
Which has brought to mind another song, Alanis Morissette, You Owe Me Nothing in Return, which is a big one. And I've had conversations with people about this song where they're like, I can't love like that. And I'm like, I struggle to accept what is love if it's not like that.
Yeah, literally.
Because there's a line in that song that says, you can tell me your deepest of truths, even if it means I'll lose you and I'll hear it.
Yeah.
Because, like, that's just it. You have to accept that if someone's ultimate happiness and life is in any way impeded by you being together, in order to love them, you have to let them go.
Absolutely.
And it may be that you come back together. It may be that you both go on to find new things. It may be devastating, but like love is actually allowing them that.
Yeah.
And allowing it for yourself as well. And then just because it's brilliantly angry and a little bit whimsical, like has funny lyrics, but then it packs a punch. And so I think that ties in with Wednesday. Queen of Denmark by John Grant is just such a great song. The first time I heard this, it wasn't actually John Grant's version. Sinead O'Connor does an incredible version of it. But as much as I love Sinead, and as much as I think she does a great job, like it is a good cover, John Grant's original version just gets the anger correct. And anyway, you'll hear it if you go to the playlist. It's pretty spectacular.
I actually have one more to add. It's a song called Release by George. I'm hoping that any Aussies who are listening to this are like, oh, yeah. But I'm from Georgia, an Australian band, and this song is kind of this collection of words is what it feels like. It's all kind of thoughts tumbling in on one another, and rhyme, but when you listen to it, there's something really there for everybody to attach to.
That's such a great frenetic energy.
And this explosion of joy into the chorus about feeling ready to release on another day. And I really feel like that song encapsulates what's kind of happening now. Like we've kind of been in this powder keg, crucible, nuclear, hydro collider, friggin'...
We've been under pressure. We've been making diamonds.
Yeah, like we've been in this oyster shell, this super...
Insert metaphor here.
Yeah, literally. And we're now kind of about to go back into our lives and bring everything that we have into our friendships, our relationships, our work lives, our career and creative pursuits. And so it just felt like the perfect thing. And it very particularly speaks to me about what Wednesday has come to mean for me. And we talked about this, that my relationship to Wednesday isn't as deep or as intimate as yours. And so I've taken this time to listen to it a whole bunch and look at the lyrics and kind of go, what does this song mean to me? What do I have to offer to this episode and to this song? And what kind of really came across as I was listening to it is that actually what Wednesday will kind of always come to signify to me is this trip and this friendship that we have. Everything that I heard brought back a memory of what we've been through in the last 2 months,
Do you want to do a quick line by line?
I will do a quick line by line.
Nothing here to fear. I'm just sitting around being foolish when there is work to be done.
I mean, that's exactly what we've been doing is, destabilizing all of our terrors about relationships, and kind of coming to the other side of the world was something that was plagued by the people around us with, we should be terrified. We should buy pepper spray. We should be concerned about being shot. We should, and a lot of people, Americans, have been like, oh, have you been scared in these parts of the world? I'm like, I can honestly say there hasn't been a single moment that I've been afraid. There is, I'm not saying that there isn't anything to fear for people in America, but that's been my encounter, is that there is nothing to fear.
But also, if
this is life.
If this is what you're asking about your own country, like,
dang.
You need to step up. This is your country. It's not ours.
Yeah.
Do you feel safe in your country?
Yeah, literally. But to sort of come in and go, I'm just here. I'm just here having a wonderful time, and I should be earning money, I should be doing a whole bunch of things, but I'm just letting this country kind of soak over me, and that's what this trip is about. So yeah.
But also, I love that I said that to you when we were sitting around waiting to hear about the bag.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just sitting around being foolish when
Yeah.
there's work to be done.
Yeah.
Just a hang-up call and the quiet breathing of our Persian, we call Cajun, on a Wednesday.
I think this,
Almost everyone we stayed with had a cat.
yeah, and had a, or a dog, or just that kind of just a hang up call thing is like, for me, is a kind of metaphor for the distractions, and that's that journey we've had around, particularly like around the grinder stuff that we've discovered while we've been here and what we've been dealing with. Is like, it's always just, there's a phone call that distracts you, and then you pick it up and there's no one at the other end of the line anyway. Like, what a way,
Yeah, ghosting.
Yeah, kind of thing. Literally, yeah.
So much ghosting.
All the ghosting.
So we go from year to year with secrets we've been keeping.
I mean, this to me, while I totally respect what it means for you, I was like, this is the essence of friendship. This is, this is what we have. We've been friends now.
We keep each other's secrets.
We do, we keep them safe. And, and it's kind of that, though you say you're not a Templar man, that kind of really speaks about you, because religion is such a big part of our lives and our pasts. And it's still very much a part of our present. But, you're not someone you're not secretive as a person, which is, the Templar Knights, they're a secret society. That's kind of the notion. So your religion hasn't enabled you to keep a secret from yourself. And that speaks to me about the journey you've done and the incredible work you've become to be an openly queer, non-binary person who has a connection to spirituality, and what that's enabled you to be in your relationships with other people, and in this relationship.
Seems as if we're circling for very different reasons, but one day the eagle has to land.
Yeah, talking about our purposes for being here, whilst the same, actually, I think over time we've realized they are very different, and our perspectives on this trip are very different. And I recall episodes like Scarlet's Walk where, we've both brought in a relationship factor, and it's not to say that you're not political and I'm not relationship minded, but that's been our engagement with America, have been for two very different projects and have been with two very different lenses of healing in mind. But at the end of the day,
this trip has to end.
Yeah, life awaits, and the eagle has to land, and we have to sort of start figuring out what this means for us going forward.
Out past the fountain, are left by the station. I start the day in the usual way, then think, well, why not, and stop for a coffee and begin to recall things that you'd say.
Like, the American directions of, well, you're going to want to go, out past the fountain, and then if you'll want to take a left by the station, it's very...
Oh no, what you're going to do is...
Yeah, that's right.
You're going to do this.
Yeah. Oh, don't tell me what to do. You're not my real mom.
You're not my real mom.
But it's also, it's just a navigation of this incredible country is a lot of that. It's so evocative of all the little things that we've caught along the way. Like when we went to go see the Millennium Beam, we did see that beautiful fountain. And when we were in New York, we decided to go our separate ways for a day, and yet we still managed to find each other at Bethesda Fountain. Like, I don't know, it's just, it just conjures up so many beautiful memories.
And so often we'd be like, let's just stop here for a drink.
Literally.
Like, we were allowing spontaneity in our days too.
And each other's reflections on this trip have been critical to the way we've interpreted it. And I always am thinking of, for me as well, my healing of my own heart has become so much about the moments that I have in private where I really have to face the advice that you're giving me. And one of them was when we were at Two Medicine, where you said to me, when are you going to acknowledge that you've done all you can? Like, you've given it everything you had. When are you going to... And Teague said the same thing, was like, you can't do this all by yourself. And no one expects that of you. At what point are you going to be done?
No one's at the door. You suggest a ghost, perhaps a phantom. I agree with this in part.
I mean, so much of what we've been through has been guiding each other through these really difficult patches. And feeling like, feeling like we're our own worst enemies, feeling like we're the villains in the piece, and feeling like something is kind of stalking us and that there is no one there. You know, you don't have to kind of constantly be watching over your shoulder for danger or for difficulty. And we've talked a lot about the notion of our pasts and feeling haunted by our pasts, and also recognizing that you aren't haunted by your past, you haunt your past. Your past is where it is. Leave it alone and fix it into the future. That's all your past wants from you. And we talked about that in Gold Dust, and it was one of the most powerful conversations I think we've had through this whole journey.
I'll skip down to...
I mean, I do want to hit on something is with us. I can't put my finger on is Thumbelina size 10 on a Wednesday.
Yeah.
Well, when I heard this, it just conjured up. We were doing a drive and we were having this really deep conversation for the podcast, actually. And I was like, I spotted these beautiful horses in a field, and I just was like, I have a question to ask you, and you can ignore it. But what's your favorite color of horse? And it just was like this ridiculous question, but I just really suddenly was like, I just want to talk about the colors of horses. Like, as much as I want to have these deep, beautiful conversations, I just kind of want to, is Thumbelina size 10? Like, what size is she? Like, or just, and I'm sure that Tori has a much deeper coding for that kind of emotion, but it is those kind of funny little conversations that you get to have when you do spend hours and hours and hundreds of miles in a car with somebody. Yeah. So yeah, that was kind of that moment for me.
Amazing. That's great. So then we go from year to year again. You tell me to cheer up. You suspect we're oddly even. Even still, the eagle has to land.
Yeah.
I liked this when Bailey told me that this was her interpretation of Wednesday and we were sort of going through it. I really liked this line because I like even footing in relationships, like friendships, everything. I like that we're oddly even. And we're both Aquarians, but we're very different Aquarians. And we go about things in the same general direction, but in a very different style.
Absolutely.
And so, like, I really do feel like we're oddly even.
Absolutely. And, like, I know that some of those things frustrate us about each other and frustrate ourselves on the other's behalf. Like, but at the end of the day, yeah, it kind of all seems to come out in the wash and we will always reach the same conclusion in our own way and lean on each other so much. Our brand of love for each other, you know, is sometimes tougher and so sometimes it is that, you know, you tell me to cheer up, like, but it doesn't come from a place of rudeness or dismissal. It comes from a place of, I've been there. And like sometimes, literally like yesterday, it's like we went through the same thing at different times where we were literally, the advice that I gave you, you then had to give me like a half hour later. Yeah. Like it's literally it's been that for the last 2 months of like.
But it's also
great
like,
advice, but now
we'll be like crying to each other about something and then the next minute I'll just like, we'll make a joke about something stupid, or I'll be like, oh, just go voicemail your boyfriend again or something.
literally that part. Yeah.
Then we think, well, why not and stop for a coffee? Pluck up the courage and snap, it's gone again. I start humming when doves cry.
This is really about
all the music we listen to.
Yeah.
And like the courage to face out. I'm jumping in.
No, by all means.
But like the courage to face what we came here to face. Like it is daunting AF.
Yeah.
And we pluck up the courage, admit something to ourselves, and then snap, it's gone. And then we need the other one to be like, remember that thing?
Hugely.
Remember the thing we were talking about?
We were just talking about, yeah, literally. And I think the other beautiful thing about this statement is if you take out the kind of the common understanding of courage, it is kind of like we're going to take on this day, and the kind of snap, it's gone again for me is going to really be about those moments where like I think I've I think I've met my feel, or I think I've processed enough, or I think I'm good, and then we'll see this incredible mountain, or we'll encounter this human, or I'll think that I'm steady, and then the universe will just give us so much more, or Scarlett will throw something else at us to just completely transform our perspective. Kind of, you get your shit together and then snap. you are faced with a guy at the smoke shop literally openly ogling my ass, or a woman who comes up to me in Disney and tells me that she thinks I'm beautiful, or I've lost the keys and we're now fucking stuck in Buffalo, but the person we're seeing in Buffalo is someone who just makes my heart absolutely sing, and then we're somewhere else, and that's what that will kind of always have a meaning for me.
Well, you talking about courage just now made me think of the song Courage by Villagers, which I adore and has helped me a lot in the past, where I'll read you the first stanza. It took a little time to get where I wanted. It took a little time to get free. It took a little time to be honest. It took a little time to be me. I took a little lover and then we parted. I took a little time to get over this. From time to time I get heavy-hearted, thinking of how you used to kiss. Courage, it's a feeling like no other, let me tell you, yeah. Courage, in harmony with something other than your ego. Courage, the sweet belief of knowing nothing comes for free. And I really feel
that's the stuff, yeah.
If you accept that things require work, that's when the good stuff happens.
We first heard that song, we were driving back from Joshua Tree in like the dark of night, and it really rocked my spirit then, and we've heard it a few intermittent times through the trip.
Whew,
And then-
can someone help me? I think that I'm lost here. Lost in a place called
America. I mean, you can really take that one as read. There is so much of me that I will leave here. I mean, To Medicine, that was what that was about. It's like, what do you want to kind of leave behind? What do you want to heal? But I'd say there's a pretty decent chunk of my heart that's now stuck in a middle of Washington, apparently. But it's just that whole journey of being here has just been about, for all that we've had a map.
But it's also lost to the experience.
Yes, very. And we did put a lot of our Australian lives behind. We gave up a lot. We really have
But we
surrendered.
had so much help too.
Yeah.
Can someone help me?
Yeah.
Yes, they did.
Many.
They really, really have. They've put us up for accommodation. They've
Fed
donated
us,
money. They've taken us out for food. They've just spent time.
given us their beds.
Yeah.
Made, we've had people sleeping on their couches in their own homes.
So like the joke that I recorded, I don't know how long ago for the opening of this podcast, it was inside me all along. Like, I feel like I'm found in a place called America.
Absolutely.
I will not be moving here.
No. I've also been banned from moving here.
Yeah, I won't allow it.
It's all right. We'll figure something out. Fuck around and find out.
We'll fuck around and find out. Well, that concludes what will likely be our longest episode yet. And
You've had a few shorties, like,
yeah, but it's also the wind-up we needed to tie up all our narrative arcs. Otherwise, you would have killed us.
yeah, we don't want to be. We want to be renewed for season 2.
Yeah. Where's the funding coming from? We'll put it to the board of us.
The board of us.
To see.
You ready to invest?
Season 2
Yeah.
is this.
That's the one we make money on.
I think
You always
disillusioned.
Pluck up the funding and snap it's gone again.
Oh, that's too true. How many grants have I applied for? All unsuccessfully.
Well,
Anyhow.
there's always next year.
There's always, actually, there's one due in September, and I'm panicking about needing to get on that.
Yeah. Well, let's not sit around being foolish when there is work to be done.
There is so much work to
We
be done.
have we're now going for a swim and a shower and a kip before we head out into our last day in LA.
And do a few little things around LA town before jumping on a plane for 20 hours. But you won't be hearing this until we're long home because we're a few episodes behind and I won't be publishing this until then. Anyway, now I'm rambling. Goodbye!
Bye, we love you. Thanks for everything.
Thank you.
The Michael's Walk podcast acknowledges that the journey they are undertaking takes place on the sacred and unceded nations of many proud Indigenous peoples. From the lands of the Wurundjeri and the Boonwurrung people of the Kulin Nation, we are fortunate to call home, to each and every Native American tribe's land we'll set foot on as we travel. We pay our respects to their elders past, present and emerging, and humbly acknowledge their sovereignty.